Hey guys, I'm Jacob, and today I'm going to talk to you about Chef Steve Kalari, former chef Steve Kalari, who refers to himself as Super Steve. I'm sorry, Super Steel Steve. Now, the algorithm and analytics show that YouTube videos do best when you start yelling at the camera and get super hype right away. So instead of doing that, I want to give us a general synopsis of this video, what the point of this video is, and that is that Steve is a liar, Steve is a hypocrite, a braggart, and could quite potentially be a scammer or have potential to be a thief. Now, Steve has mentioned that he's considering getting a lawyer for defamation for a few different things throughout this process. I'm sorry to tell you, Steve, I don't know what your experiences in court have been, but you can't get a state-appointed lawyer to sue someone in civil court. Okay, so what's going on here, and most importantly, why does it matter? I don't normally, especially in the knife community, like doing videos like this. I have very little interest in white knighting, and I have very little interest in knife drama. I generally want to see the American-made knife community remain as strong as possible. So I've had some run-ins with Steve and some of his crew in the past. I've never made a video about it. I've never talked about it because it just wasn't worth it. But now we have a situation where Steve quite realistically could have been trying to steal like $3,800 from a really good guy who invested in him. And in return from that situation, is now treating that guy like dog crap and defaming him. At this point, we have a guy whose product is overhyped, whose customers are not getting what they are paying for, and who, by all accounts, looks like he was trying to rip somebody off for doggone close to $4,000. At this point, it is a public service announcement. Now, I want to start this video from here with a character profile on Super Kevin. I'm going to refer to him as Super Kyle or Kyle going forward. Why? Because Kyle likes drinking monsters and punching holes in drywall, and it's a really, really good fit for Stevie here.
You're taking away my Game Boy.
You're fucking pissing me off.
Who the H-E double fuck are you?
I'm Kyle. Who the WT fucking shit is you, you fucking douche?
I'm Kyle. You're Kyle?
Yeah.
Prove it.
All right.
Douche.
Yeah. Oh! Yes!
You, Dad? Yeah!
My turn.
Yeah!
Here comes. Yeah!
So the reason I want to create a character profile here is if Steve is a pathological liar and hypocrite, we have to weigh that heavily when we are considering if we believe what he says. So Steve reached out to me publicly in my comment section around July 6th of last year. I made a Survive Knives video, essentially saying Survive Knives didn't survive, and I was talking about a lot of the things that I have learned about Guy and about Survive Knives since Blade Show. The situation with Survive Knives was a really a growing experience for me because we transitioned from what I saw and how things looked and some information that I was getting from my buddy John that was incorrect, and we transitioned into getting a lot of first-hand accounts and speaking to Guy himself and realizing that everything was wrong. So I made this video, and Super Kyle jumps into my comment section. And by the way, I've got receipts for absolutely everything, and I will show them even if it makes me look bad. I don't care. I would rather be absolutely honest through every step of every process of everything that I do, even if it makes me look bad, than ever tell a lie. It's disgusting to me. It's people like Steve that make me overly averse to saying anything that is even marginally untrue. So anyways, he gets on here and he starts being coy like, oh, so you heard about these things at Blade Show, but you're just now making a video. So I said something along the lines of, you'll be seeing it here, stop pussyfooting around and being coy and say what you mean. Because I've been doing YouTube for like 10 years now. I am so sick and tired of intellectual cowards who have to beat around the bush for 15 comments, taking little backstabs here and there and fishing for information before they can actually say what they think. It's pathetic, and I'm just sick of it. Spit it out, Kyle. So he goes on to say that it is crappy of me to have waited so long to make a video talking about Survive Knives. I don't owe, I don't owe my viewership anything but the truth. I've got a lot of stuff going on. Blade Show was in June. I think it's the first weekend of June, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. And this conversation happened in July. The video happened in early July. So I took a month of learning about Survive and actually speaking to Guy personally before I made this video. And Steve took such a problem with that he decided that he was going to attack me and try to force me to allow him to go live with me. Now that would have worked on me probably 5 years ago, probably about the amount of time that Steve's been doing this. I've been doing this a good bit longer than Kyle here. And I've come to a point now where I've realized that when someone's trying to bully you into doing something, into continuing to engage in an argument, to get into a fight, to allow them to go live on your channel, any of this stuff, when they're trolling you and bullying you, they want you to feel like a coward if you block them or if you don't engage with them. The truth is that you are a coward if you submit to them and give them what they want. They have the power over you because they forced you to do something. And Kyle has never deserved to get any airtime on my channel. If he wants to go live at Blade Show this year with me in person, we can probably do that. And he can tell more lies about how he's not actually a liar and a hypocrite. Regardless, we're getting off topic here. Sorry, I've got to throw this in here really quick so I know it's cut in. The most gratuitous and stupid lie that he told was that he never offered to send me a knife. The screenshot that I sent him right here. He made some stupid excuse for it. Steve always has an excuse. But why offer to send someone a knife and then lie about it? It's kind of like when Steve told everybody or publicly said in a comment that everybody who said anything about me better line up with their apologies, and then turned right around and was like, oh, line up for apologies. I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. It's so stupid. The dude will never own up to anything and will always go into semantics so that he can just always be lying. He has to do this because he can't keep track of what lies he's telling anymore.
I don't even know what that means. Thank you. I don't know what line up apologies means. I did not say we should all line up our apology. I don't know what the fuck I never said that. I don't even know what that means.
Steve goes on to say that he's made many videos about Survive and about all of these other things, and that they've gotten thousands of views. Now, I'm not the only one who saw this. We've got a guy right here. I'll circle his name. Let's give a hand to the other people who are watching this happen. Other people who watched Steve continuously lie and absolutely get chopped down at the legs every single time. Steve said he's done a bunch of videos Where are your videos? Oh, I've got thousands and thousands of views. Oh, they're not on YouTube, they're on Rumble. You go over to Rumble, he has 500 followers. All of these views that he's talking about are nowhere to be seen. Now, at this point, we know that you don't see any videos from Steve because he drops a live and then he deletes it or doesn't upload it afterwards because he's a coward. So he can claim that he got as many views as he wants. He's got absolutely no proof of it. But you didn't get thousands and thousands and thousands of views, buddy, on your account with 500 followers. He claims that he has sold more knives than me, even though he's a personal maker. Well, once again, Steve, you're a liar. Because at this point, he'd been making for about a year and a half, a little bit less. And about a year and a half ago at this point, I'd sold somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 knives. He'd been a maker for about a year and a half. So unless he'd been making something like 10 to 15 knives a day, every day, 7 days a week, just another lie. So he's going through, he's continuously telling lies, and he's continuously getting shut down. Pathetic. I don't know why he ever came. Fast forward a little bit. Now, I said that I wasn't going to mention Erica's EDC in this video, and I did not at that time have the intention of doing so, but I'm going to do it now. I've changed my mind, but not in a negative way. Erica's EDC had a bit of a run-in with my buddy Alan at Primitive Bear Knives recently over warranty work and the amount of time that it took him to do some warranty work. Guys, this happens. This does happen with knife makers. It does happen with people. I understand it can be difficult. The problem was resolved. It's over. There are a couple of adults. They did their business, but because Erica is friends with Steve, Steve went and messaged Alan and talked to him about how he just needs to give the warranty knives and he just needs to do this, that, and the other. And everybody was getting onto Alan's case recently about this situation. There's nuance to the situation, guys, and about the reason for how long this took. I'm not going to get into that. Steve was just in Alan's DMs for Erica's sake. Again, pressuring people to do what Steve wants them to do, because that's what Steve does. Steve later has said that there's never been anything to besmirch his name, his brand. Nothing has ever happened. But if you look here, you'll see that Steve's done some pretty crappy stuff with his own warranties. And guess what? I would call it a scam if you are telling somebody that that you'll fix their knife or whatever, you regrinded it, but the finish still didn't look good. When you just ghost somebody and then just pressure them into stop messaging you and they never get their product back, buddy, that's called a scam. Conveniently, Kyle has a hard time defining what a scam is and what a liar is. And a lot of this has to do with how he's built his image and his reputation, but we'll get to that later. Going forward, it will be incredibly apparent that Steve is an absolute liar and a hypocrite. I have thought about breaking down every single little thing that he said and how it is hypocritical or directly a lie. I don't think I need to do that because within the context of this video, I think that you guys are, as a whole, everybody is intelligent enough to see that for themselves when they're watching it from a third party. So what I'm going to do here, I have the entire original live from Witty, who owns USA Made Blade, who paid Steve Kalari up front for 20 knives. I'm going to link that right here. It's going to be an unlisted video, and you can watch all of that. But essentially, because I don't want to post all 20 minutes of it, here's what happened.
And so what's happened is that I've had, over the years, I've had different knife makers that I've taken the time to fund their builds. But we've had ourselves in the situation before where we believe in a knife maker, we believe in a knife that they're making, and we know that they don't have funds. A lot of times as a new knife maker, it's very difficult getting started. So we have backed and paid people up front to build knives. This goes everything from
To build knives for us.
to build knives for us. So we have one maker in particular that took advantage of that. And we paid him last year. The check was deposited, or the check was written, I think, January 19th and deposited by like the 23rd or something of January of 2024.
And when were you supposed to receive those knives?
Those knives were supposed to be received within a couple months. The next text was on July 16th. And I said, it's almost August. He sent me a picture of work in progress. He said, I got 10 here working, the other 10, and I'm working the other 10. My next text to him said 10 months. He responded back and just said, yes, sir. Next text to him said, 11 months since my check was cashed. By the way, I was off on all the months by a month. So if I say 10 months, it was 11 months. If I say 11 months, it was 12 months. So on January 20th of this year, I said 11 months since my check was cashed. This was not a long-term loan. I would like my knives or my money back by no later than February 14th. Thank you. I think that's clear enough. And that was on January 23rd. I'm sorry, that was on January 20th. On January 23rd, I sent him another text and said, not a single word of a response. He said, he did respond. He said, yes, sir, I saw your message. Again, I apologize. I never meant for this to happen. I'm doing my best to meet your deadline. The next response I got from him was on the date of the deadline. It was February 14th. I click on the tracking that he sent. That's all he sent. No text, no other dialogue. Sent a tracking. And folks, to reveal the name, it is, and you're going to understand why I'm going live about this here in just a minute, especially once I say the name, but it is our own Chef Steve Kalari.
Now, I don't know Witty personally, so I can't tell you that Witty would never tell a lie. I can't tell you that Witty is absolutely trustworthy, but it would appear to me that Witty has no reason to lie, no ulterior motive to lie. He's reading the text. It appears to me that he's telling the truth. And here then we have Steve's response, but we don't get the response right away. Now, let me just say really quick, I made a live video stating that what I believed was happening. Steve is a full-time maker. Steve is always online. Steve is always talking trash. Steve is always quick on the trigger. But somehow, the day that Witty dropped this video, Steve was nowhere to be found. He was saying nothing to anybody. His people were reaching out to him. He said he was going to do a video that night. Then he didn't do it. He said he was going to do a video the next day. He waited till like 8:30 at night. I said that what Steve was going to do before it happened was, I said Steve was on his grinder, grinding like his life depended on it to make the knives for this order before he said anything, so that when he went live, he could say, look, here's the knives. There's a lot that goes into this, but beyond all of that, the next day at 8:30, Steve breaks his silence, and essentially this is what he has to say.
First off, when people say I stole money, stealing would be me taking money from Witty without him knowing. I didn't steal anything. I was paid. Another thing that I think got misconstrued in his stream, I didn't watch it. I don't know. I hope he didn't say it. If he did, maybe he didn't understand. I don't know. I don't know how he couldn't, but I did not take money up front for the knives.
May 20th, I texted him and said, any update? Running over 5 months now. He responds back, I'm going to just shorten some of this. He's like, Jesus, I didn't realize. He torched some knives, and then he had 3 relatives die in February, March, and April.
Now, Steve has to continually say that he was not paid in full up front. The reason for that is he has made his name calling people out for taking payment up front. So he says Blade Binge is unique because Blade Binge paid for all of his materials up front and nobody else will do that.
So that's why when people, how do you make 75 knives for Blade Binge? That project started in September. It was a 6-month project, and Blade Binge did what nobody else has ever done. Blade Binge paid all the materials up front. I put none of my own money into that. They put all the materials up front because it was a massive. I mean, the carbon fiber alone on that project was $3,000.
He's saying that Blade Binge is better than Witty. Witty paid 100% upfront, according to Witty. Steve Kalari went after Survive, rightly so. He went after a lot of people, and now people are realizing that Steve Kalari himself is guilty of a lot of the things that he has accused other people of. So he has to make a point to say that he takes 100% of the blame, but he has to specify what that entails, and he has to lie and say that he was not paid up front for the knives, that the knives were finished when he was paid. Now here's what's ironic to me, because Steve always gives himself wiggle room. Narcissists and liars and dirtbags do this. He says the knives were finished when he got the order, but then he realized that the knives were warped, so then he tried to straighten them with a carbide hammer when they were finished, and they cracked, and he realized that his whole heat treat was ruined.
So then I had the knives. All I had left was some finish grinding, maker's mark, sharpening, wrap them up, box them out. That is when I contacted Witty for payment. He mailed me the check, got the check deposited. A few days later, when I got to the knives, maybe 2 or 3 days later, I got to the knives, got to start working on them. With these were all kitchen knives in Nitro V with very thin stock. Particularly with AEBL and Nitro V, and especially when it's thin stock, the knives will warp. All steels will do this, but it's really bad with Nitro V and AEBL. They'll warp while you're grinding them. A lot of times you can just kind of warp or grind the other side and straighten them out because it's an unevenness issue. Sometimes they just warp because they're stressing the steel. This is last year, so I didn't really understand stress relieving cycles and stuff like that I do now, so it was a much bigger problem. Anyway, when it warps like that, if I can't get it out, I take a carbide hammer and you can lightly tap it, straighten it back out, grind those tap marks out, we're good to go. When I went to straighten one of them, it broke right in half, which sucked. What sucked more is when I looked at it, the grain was torched.
So what you're saying, Steve, is that you thought a bunch of knives were finished, but actually they were all warped. They were not finished, and you broke them, so they weren't finished. No inspection, no quality control. If your story was true, which it's a lie, they were not finished. Then he says he went to the post office and the package was too big. So he gave him a tracking number, but then the package was too big for the post office.
I have nothing but a good reputation with any vendor I've ever worked with. I've never screwed, or any customer. I've never screwed anybody over. I've never taken a year to deliver knives. I've absolutely had setbacks. I've absolutely been delayed on stuff. I have zero inclinations that I've ever fucked anybody over. You'll never hear anybody say I did anything other than right.
Just look at it. Just look at it.
Yeah, well,
What the heck is that?
He demanded they be done by the 14th of February. They were done by the 14th of February. I sent him tracking. There was an issue with the postage office that said, the lady there said I could not ship the box was too big for a PO box, so I couldn't mail it. I said, okay, no problem. Took it back home. I'll put it in 2 boxes and I'll mail it later.
Witty receives pallets to his P.O. box, allegedly. But here's the bigger issue. We all know that when someone's behind on a product or when a company is behind on getting something shipped, that they will give you a tracking number and put it to the side until they have things finished. It is a classic, or they'll never ship it. They'll say it's lost, they'll make excuses. It is an absolute classic scammer maneuver. And the bigger thing here is he's talking about how he thought about arguing with the lady at the post office. Check this out. When you go to the post office and you go to ship something, if you're shipping priority mail, what you have to do over a certain weight, they'll give you the boxes for free. So he says that he needed 2 boxes to ship the knives. He was at the post office. If that was the case, they would have just given you for free 2 priority mailboxes. But no, he brought them home. He was going to ship them later, and 14 days later, Witty just drops this on his doorstep. Bull crap. What a ignorant and stupid lie. I can't imagine, Steve is sitting here grinding like his life depends on it, thinking his whole world's about to come down, and he's like, how am I going to lie my way out of this? His lies are so stupid that the only people who can possibly believe them are the people who desperately want to believe them. Let's make it even better. At one point, Steve claims that he already had 10 knives done. He sent a picture to Witty. All right, here he is saying that.
I'm not going to sit there and go, this is what I'm looking at, and then it's not done. I told him when I had 10 done. I know I said that. I said I got 10 done, 10 more to go.
The next text was on July 16th, and I said, it's almost August. He sent me a picture of work in progress. He said, I got 10 here working the other 10, and I'm working the other 10. Going through and sending you a text pretty much every month or every other month. It's almost August, 8 months, 10 months. But let's jump back to that. It's almost August. That's July. That's the picture you sent me. Yeah. Where are those knives? Because that's after the batch was burned up.
I don't get what you're asking.
Are those the knives that you just showed off?
I'm assuming so. Why wouldn't they be?
Because they're the exact same knives that went to another maker or another dealer.
Okay, so I sent you the wrong picture.
Fair enough.
I don't get what you're trying. What are you trying to get at? I'm confused.
Here is that every time I've turned around and asked you a question, I've gotten bullshit.
Then Witty shows Steve the picture. Are these the knives you were talking about? Well, yeah, I would assume so. It's the picture that Steve sent to him saying your 10 knives are already done. I've just got to do the other 10. Those knives, Witty already knew because whoever he sent them to told Witty, as it would appear. He sent those knives to someone else. It was BS. He didn't have knives done. Once again, lying through his teeth. And watch what he does. He constantly just treats Witty like crap. When Witty calls him on this, he says, what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? Okay. Steve does this a lot. So when you tell Steve that he's done something, when you have a disagreement with Steve, he'll say, what are you saying? Now, this is not because Steve is too stupid to understand what you're saying. People don't do it for that reason. That's what they want to portray. When you accuse somebody of something, like in this case, and you say, what are you saying? You're gaslighting them. What you are doing is you are communicating with them that whatever point they're trying to make, it's not obvious. Then when you ask them to explain their point that is brutally obvious to everybody, you then pick it apart and downplay it, and you make the person feel like they are the idiot. This is an absolute classic tactic that now that you know that this is why people will do it, you watching this right now are thinking, oh my gosh, I run into this all the time. Hey, are these the knives that you had done? Yeah, those are the knives I had done. That's weird because you sent them to somebody else. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? And then he says, oh, I must have sent you the wrong picture. Absolute, abject stupidity. Disgusting. An important point to note here is that this February 14th deadline, this was a deadline where Witty had to have the knives or the money. Witty had to have the knives or the money in hand. Not get a tracking number, but have the knives. So Steve Kalari is constantly saying that the knives were done, but his only proof is a tracking number that went nowhere and a lie that is so stupid nobody could believe it. Now in his first live, he only shows these knives briefly, darkly, with blade covers on them. You can't really tell that it's 20 knives, and you can't tell that the knives are finished. So Steve Kalari says that he was working until midnight last night. That's why he couldn't get his first live up. Okay. Well, what was he working on? Well, he's a knife maker, so I'm guessing that maybe he was making knives. He couldn't talk to anybody all day when this dropped. He was working till 12. Then the next day at 8:30, you would think that if your entire defense of yourself publicly was based on having these 20 knives finished already, that would have been the focal point of your live video, and you would have shown them all in good lighting because you have nothing to be ashamed of. Of course, you would have something to be ashamed of because you're over a year late on knives that you were paid up front for. But that should have been the focal point. Anybody with a brain knows that. I would say with you guys, look, my background's military intelligence. My bachelor's degree is in criminal justice with a focus on homeland security and domestic terrorism. It ain't hard to figure out when you're working with a scumbag. All right? So we see darkly lit. We see he got badgered into showing the knives finally, and I think it was after like an hour. He shows them really briefly in the dark, and you have blade protectors on them. So we have him doing this live. He's getting tore up in the live. So sadly, the video that I have fully downloaded, link to that will be here. It's all unlisted. It's unlisted because there's no way to do anything else. But I'm telling you, I've got the receipts. So if you want to watch it, because he'll probably take it down. If you want to watch it, it's there. Golly. The next day, after being a dirtbag all night for 2 hours in a freaking live. This is why I got to do this video in this format. Because his first video is 2 hours long. Witty's video is 20 minutes long. And then his second video, which he posted on YouTube, it's still up, but it will be linked here as well, unlisted. Now, his second video, he's more calm. It's actually bright out. And he shows the knives finished. So he was grinding knives till midnight the night before. Then all day, he can't talk to anybody or send a message to anybody till 8:30 at night, and he can show some knives that have blade covers on them. And then the next day, in the middle of the day, he shows 20 finished knives. Says a lot of the same stuff, kind of goes over all of the same lies, all of his same little defense story. Guys, if you have a brain, I don't need to explain to you how stupid it is point by point, but there you go. He was accused of being bad with his money. First off, again, here's another thing that's important about this. If Steve was he's been making for 2 years. If Steve was just a 2-year maker who was making these uninspired knives with pretty poor fit and finish, it wouldn't really be a big deal. But as you can see here, Steve's reputation from his little circle of sycophants is for revolutionizing the knife industry since 2017. So Steve, he doesn't have to own anything that he says because he's taken all of his videos down, okay? But he's out here claiming that he's revolutionizing the industry. He made claims like S35VN sucks, and he like as a heat treat god revolutionized it and fixed S35VN. It's just all the dumbest crap you could ever say, because he's created a clientele and a customer circle and an influencer circle of ignorance. And he's feeding ignorance because he cannot sell knives just based on their quality alone, which is why he has to constantly go out and berate people for attention so much. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sell knives, and he wouldn't be able to make enough money to pay his bills. Now, speaking of his bills, he was accused multiple times of being bad with spending his money. So this is what he says.
My spending habits? Brother, like you're just pulling at straws here. My spending habits, watch this. My spending habits? Watch this. Do you see that? Here, let's go learn about Steve, since Baron. Here you go. Come here. Let's go look at this. Do you see this? This right here is my 2010 Hyundai Sonata. I have not driven this car. This car hasn't moved in a year and a half because I don't have the money to fix the rotors. Just the rotors. It's not spending habits, dog.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I've got to be really careful here because I do not want to be hypocritical. And because there's nothing wrong with being poor and working hard to make a living. There is nothing wrong with that. Despite the fact that he's claiming, he's getting onto my YouTube and he's immediately dick measuring. I'm better than you. I've sold more knives than you. I've got more views than you. I'm the best in the world. I've revolutionized the whole industry. Now, running a private business, you tell everybody that you have this 2010 Hyundai Sonata that you haven't been able to drive for a whole year just because the brake rotors are broken. And to you, this is a way to justify the fact that you're not bad at spending your money or using your money wisely. You're just poor. If you, in an entire year's time, cannot afford the brake rotors on your Hyundai Sonata cost $35. I could change the brake rotors and pads and bleed the brakes on your car in under 2 hours because I'm a crappy mechanic for under $50. And if you can't do that in an entire year because of the money, you are in the wrong business. You are in the wrong business. You need to go get a job. Now listen, guys. You guys can take from that what you will, and that is probably the hardest point that I want to make for tonight. Because, and I'll embarrass myself right now. I've got a first-gen Cummins parked in my yard right now because I smoked the clutch in some mud drags. And my back was thrown out, so I paid a guy to come replace it. He did half the job. It's just a freaking clutch. He did half the job. I paid him by day because I wanted to be a good guy, and he never came back. And it's so hard for me to pick up somebody else's half-done job that I'm going at some point to go pay someone else to finish it. My Jeep is also in my yard right now because I've got to replace the slave cylinder. I'm halfway done. It's been really hard for me to get time. Listen, I'm poor. So I'm not better than Steve Kalari when it comes to money or money management or anything else. So when I talk about this when I bring this point up here, it's not to say that he's less of a man because he's poor, because I am poor too, and I'll own it. I don't care. The problem here is that your defense for your spending habits or lack of money is the fact that you can't afford to pay $35 in an entire year's time to do an absolutely basic mechanical job. I can't imagine how somebody would not know how bad of a look that is. So this video is important to me because I believe you didn't see Kyle start to make Witty's knives until he got called out for Witty's knives. What if he had never been called out? You can see how he badgers and berates Witty and treats him like a dog. He says he feels bad for Witty in person, but then in his comment section in his video, he's downplaying the crap out of him. He says, how am I supposed to sell my knives after you just did me like this? And then goes right out the next day and says, oh, I already sold 3/4 of these knives. Fake it till you make it doesn't work. He might not be a thief in this instance. Now the definition of a thief, he improperly defined that because he's an idiot or because he wants to. If you get paid, you don't have to take someone's money to be a thief. You can lie to someone and they can voluntarily pay you and you don't deliver what you told them you were going to deliver and you are still in fact a thief. Stupid. Gosh, I hate stupid. Let me correct that. I don't hate stupid. I hate manipulators and narcissistic psychopaths who will act like they're stupid to get away with things. What would have happened if Witty had contacted him personally and Steve had just continued to berate the man or not respond to the man and never bring it up? I don't think Witty would have ever gotten his knives. I would almost guarantee you that if you go into Super Kyle's 15-year Atlanta culinary chef's experience, that you would find theft, that you would find him losing his job, that you would find him having problems constantly, because look at the guy. If you are a successful chef in Atlanta for 15 years and you have revolutionized the knife industry and you're the greatest heat treater or whatever else, you don't live like he's living, unable to afford $35 of brake rotors for your car for an entire year. The whole thing is a freaking show. It's a lie. It's all, listen, somebody mentioned seeing a psychiatrist. Steve probably hates himself. Steve probably hates where he's at in his life. Steve probably needs help. Steve is probably a victim. He probably has childhood trauma going back to his own father, going back to his experiences as a child. I don't know Steve's background, but I see it there. Steve probably needs help. But Steve, if you are lying to yourself and lying to everybody else in the world, it doesn't matter how many times you call other people out to make yourself look like the white knight and to make it look like you're the good guy, it's all going to come out. So how do we go forward? First off, for my viewers, you don't have to support people like this. Steve Kalari's clientele is in chef's knives and in EDC knives, okay? Brandon Park makes a sick EDC knife. When you buy his knife, I guarantee you, you put one of his knives side by side with Steve's knives and you will be like, Steve's knife looks like a piece of trash. In Blade Binge's own advertisements for his knife, he's got all kinds of issues with his manufacturing, and that is with the knife that they were using to advertise. You think the rest of the 20 looked perfect? I've seen tons of issues with his knives. Glue seeping out from under scales, freaking lanyard tubes that are proud of the handle. They look uninspired. And what I mean when I say that, I've got an eye for this. This is what I do. I've been doing this for over a decade. What I mean is, when a maker first starts out, their proportions are wrong. I like Alan at Primitive Bear Knives. The first knives that he sent me, they ain't quite right. The proportions of them ain't quite right. Bear Forest knives, the first knives that he sent me, little bit wonky. One that I haven't shown on YouTube, but that is very dear to me. It's a little bit wonky when we first started making. Both of these guys, you know, kind of started making knives after I'd gotten to know them, and I gotten to know them from them buying my knives, okay? And their first knives were not an accurate representation of their knives now, because the eye could just tell that the proportions aren't quite right. They find their stride. Look at Peter Kohler's early knives. Look a lot different than his knives do now. Every knife maker, when you first start, and some people never change, never get out of this phase, but when you first start, all right, battery died. I don't know where we left off. It's like 45 degrees out today, but I guarantee you down here in this gully, we still got snow down here. We're at freezing. It's pretty cold, so the batteries are getting sapped quick. But the people that I mentioned, I don't know how much I mentioned about them, but like Primitive Bear Knives, Bear Forest Knives, even Peter Kohler, when they first started making, their designs look proportionally slightly wrong. I call it uninspired, because they haven't yet gotten the inspiration and figured out the proportions that define them as a maker. That's where Steve Kalari is at. You will see that when you put his knives next to a properly made and designed knife. So, for my viewers, you can buy a good knife that is amazingly made from a good person, and you don't have to go support a lying hypocrite who makes a substandard knife. So Brandon Park, a good guy, beautiful knives, not my genre. This is EDC, generally speaking, not my genre, okay? Alan, Primitive Bear Knives, I already mentioned. Great knives. Ross Gammons at Dry Creek Forge, great guy, great knives. Garrett, Bear Forest Knives. I don't know if I already said it. Oh yeah, Jake at Very Good Knife Company. He'll sell you a knife that is just as slicey or slicier than what Steve Kalari makes, and for half the price. All right, with solid heat treats. I might have to make another video about Steve Kalari's heat treat stupidity, but the guy's using presets on an oven. So why does anybody think that in the age of Laren Thomas and all of the work that Laren Thomas has done, why would anybody give the credit from Laren Thomas for the move in the industry towards higher hardnesses and learning about edge geometry? He put all of this out for free as a professional. He is a metallurgist as a job, and people are like, Steve Kalari revolutionized the industry. I'd never heard of Steve Kalari until like a year ago when he the biggest lie from earlier, maybe I should dub this in earlier, I never asked to send you a knife. Dude, he asked me to send him a knife, and I didn't want it because it looks like trash. It is crap. So I don't want to review it. I didn't put him on blast publicly because I wanted to be polite for what that was worth. But good people are out there. Let's see. Cypress Creek Knives, awesome. AA Hand Forged Knives, awesome. Awesome people, awesome knives. Get yourself a knife from Andy Roy at Fiddleback Forge. Bobby Garza at frickin' Diamondback Country Knives. Put in an order with that man before his prices double. If anybody tells you that they are the heat treat wizard, do not buy from them, because they are liars. There is no heat treat wizard. There is having the right heat treat for the job and for the edge geometry, and then there are varying degrees of the wrong heat treat. Harder is not better, and most knife steels can achieve psycho hardnesses of 55, 56, 57 or more. That doesn't mean that they are good at that hardness. That's why we temper them back. So, guys, it's just, this whole thing is a freaking crap show. And here's the deal, Kyle, Monster Energy, okay? The more that you lie, the more videos I'm going to make. Because now I'm like a dog chasing a goat, and I will chase it into the ground because I absolutely freaking despise liars. You put yourself on my radar. You screwed yourself. You screwed your own brand. And guess what? If you can't put bread on the table, your wife leaves you, whatever the hell else that happens, you can't sit here and blink, Jake at the Prepper's Bunker, Witty, this mother effer, blame your own self for being a piece of trash. Go get some freaking counseling. So for Kyle, I gave it advice for the customer, now advice for Kyle. Dude, get some counseling. Stop blaming other people for your problems because you have the potential to do good things. Okay? When he called out potato peeler guy and this and that and the other guy and Guy at Survive Knives, which he told Guy at Survive Knives that he was going to hire a giant black man to come to his house and beat him to death, like, because that's the kind of human being that Steve Kalari is. But anyways, when you there is potential value in these things, but why you're doing it is important. So if you do have it in your heart somewhere to do the right thing and to be a great knife maker, make sure to clean up your house. And by that, I mean like skeletons in your closet. I don't mean the actual cleanliness of your physical home. Make good knives without hyping people. When you lie to your customers to hype your product, you're stealing from them. So advertise honestly. You didn't fix S35VN. You're not a magician at heat treat. And your knives are not yet at a point where they are good. But stop blaming other people for your problems. Go seek help. And listen, you don't have to go to a therapist. You don't have to go to a therapist. But don't surround yourself with friends who are yes men. And I know that you do. I know your little inner circle is a bunch of yes men who listen to you because you yell at them. I'm not saying move away from them, although they should move away from you. What I'm saying is surround yourself with honest and good people who you respect and who will call you out on your crap. And start to think about the process of self-actualization. When you own something like this situation, you say, I take full blame, I take full credit. Don't set boundaries for what that means. Don't make a bunch of lies to actually only take partial credit. Just own all of it. And when you screw up, own it. All of it. Don't let yourself get this far behind. I think that there's a good chance that you go around telling people not to take money up front so much because in your heart you know that you already did it and you are behind because of it. Man, you know, I don't care how many knives you've sold. If you had in fact sold more knives than me, I would not be offended. That's okay. If your dick is bigger than mine, that's all right. That's cool. You know, that's a problem that everybody has, except for the guy with the biggest dick in the world, whoever he is. All right. If you're more successful than me, you get more views than me or anybody else. Listen, I'm not making knives right now. I will make knives. I will get into that when I can afford to. And you know what? If you've progressed as a maker and you make better knives than me, I'm okay with that. There will be people who make better knives than me. That's fine. This isn't a, you can't always make everything into a dick measuring contest. When you do that, everybody just automatically assumes that your dick is small. So you have to go and project to everybody how big it is. It's the whole fake it till you make it mentality, and it's bad for your mental health. Because when you go to bed and you close your eyes at night, you know that you're a liar. And you become paranoid because you will be thinking, with all of these contacts that you've made, these people at Blade Show, Witty, me, whoever else, you'll be thinking, how long until they figure it out? They're going to find me out. Actually, also probably part of the reason that you're calling other people out. Because you're paranoid about being caught yourself. So the answer here is just don't do it. Just do the right thing. Own everything. Fix things and move forward. Don't ever lie. All right? And keep making knives and you'll get better at it. You don't have to lie to sell knives. If you have to get another job to pay the bills while you're making knives so you can continue to progress as a knife maker and build your brand and do things that are unique, then do it. And listen, and for the people watching, the best knife maker doesn't get to charge the most. How much you can charge is not just based on your skill set. I know great makers who are undercharging like crazy. In fact, Alan at Primitive Bear Knives is undercharging like crazy. Ross Gammons, I honestly think that Ross at Dry Creek Forge is charging half of what he should be. I think he just posted a cigar, a solid micarta cigar holder just the other day for like $100 that he made on the mill. Beautiful. Finish on it was awesome. I think it even had like a copper plate pinned to it that was super sick with Dry Creek Forge on it. $100. He should have sold that thing for $300, guys. Nothing is freaking cheap anymore. And so, the problem is, and to go back to Kyle here, instead of lying to hype your product to sell it like they did in the 80s and 90s, you think of new and creative ways to attract people's attention while constantly trying to improve the product. I'll give you a freebie. Something like use a brand, an iron brand, a metal brand, or something like that, with your logo on it or with something that you hold near and dear in your life. Okay, and brand your Kydex and draw attention to that because it costs you nothing for all of your Kydex, but now you have an extra detail to look at, and people like looking at details. This is my idea, which I give to anybody freely. Like, instead of doing anything dishonest to sell anything, don't care what it is, instead of beating up on yourself when you think that somebody else is selling an inferior product for more money, because it will happen your whole life, no matter what you sell, instead of all of the negativity that can come with that, think of creative new ways to do things better, and then that gives you something to advertise. Too many makers are just making knives and posting them. But vehicle manufacturers today are still advertising like air conditioning, climate control, electric windows, and electric chairs. What doesn't have those freaking things? But they're still mentioning it because it's still a marketing bullet point, and stupid customers like seeing as many marketing bullet points as they can. So if you can constantly be coming up with a new and unique thing to make you stand out, you also have to tell people about that and advertise it. And that is an honest way to generate sales. You already know about, it's about who you know. Steve has rubbed shoulders clearly with the right people and said the right things to the right people. So you already know how that works. Okay, focus on that. But what would ever make someone think to come after me? Dax, get over here! Because I made a YouTube video. What? Do you expect me to do it the day I got home from Blade Show? A week later? 2 weeks later? What makes you think that you can come onto my channel and berate me and then start telling me all the ways that you think that you're better than me? Does that make you feel better? Because I'm reading this and I'm like, this guy is a freaking psycho. What the hell is wrong with this weird looking freaking dude? What the crap? It's just freaking ridiculous. And Kyle, do remember that when I saw you at Blade Show, you know, you weren't so tough. You looked away, and I very much saw it. So stop playing the tough guy on the computer, trying to go live with people to yell at them because it makes you feel better. Instead, work on whatever it is in your life that makes you feel better for doing that, because it's freaking pathetic. It's really bad. That's not the direction I wanted to go with this video. I also wanted to hit about 5 minutes. If you watched this whole thing, I did make an ass out of myself. But on a video like this, I don't know how much to do here. You know, I don't know how to go about this. I do think I'll probably have to do some more videos that are more concise and more professional. But until then, guys, if you watched the whole thing, comment OG with your comment to prove that you are in the outro gang. I didn't put my normal intro into this, but if you enjoy this channel, if you enjoy this content, my knife brand is Exodus Knife and Tool. I will never, ever, I will downplay my own product before I ever oversell anything that I do. But I do believe that I have a fantastic design manufactured by the best company in America, White River Knife and Tool. Beach and Tactical, I'll make you a rifle sling. It will take a long time, and it will be expensive, because they take me a long time to make, and I hate it. Let's see, we've got the Patreon, we've got affiliate links, we've got whatever. Talk to you in the comment section below, guys. Have a good one.